This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. It's Thursday, February 20th, 2025. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
President Trump is issuing a warning to his Ukrainian counterpart as the rhetoric between the two leaders grows. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
As the Senate debates the dual Republican budget bills, President Trump backs the House's one big, beautiful bill. I'm Rich Johnson.
An appeals court says no to President Trump's Birthright executive order, and it was a quid pro quo court appearance for New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
On Wall Street, the S&P 500 index opens at a record high this morning for the second day in a row. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
RFK Jr. makes his presence felt at HHS.
Mexico President Claudia Sheinbaum said that surveillance drone flights by the U.S. government are at the request of her government. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. The rhetoric is ramping up between President Trump and Ukrainian President Zelensky, which included Trump calling the Ukrainian leader a dictator. And the impact has reached Capitol Hill, where members of the Senate on both sides of the aisle have concerns over America's dealing with Vladimir Putin. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports.
President Trump is issuing a warning to his Ukrainian counterpart as the rhetoric between the two leaders grows. In a social media post, the president says Vladimir Zelensky better move fast to negotiate an end to Russia's war with his nation, or he won't have a nation to lead.
A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast, or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast, because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it.
The president has suggested Ukraine started the war just days shy of the Russian invasion's third anniversary.
This is disgusting. It's shameful to hear the president repeat Putin's propaganda while laying the groundwork for negotiations that favor Russia at Ukraine's expense. The people of Ukraine did not start this war. Vladimir Putin did.
Chuck Schumer and Democrats blasted the president's words.
I think Vladimir Putin started the war.
As did Republicans like John Kennedy.
I think Vladimir Putin started the war. I also believe, through bitter experience, that Vladimir Putin is a gangster. He's a gangster with a black heart.
The president's harsh words came after Zelensky said he was falling into a Russian disinformation trap, working to end the war on Russia's terms. A top Zelensky advisor says Ukraine simply doesn't understand why the U.S. wants to hand dominance to the aggressor. While Putin says there's no need to get hysterical over the negotiations, adding he's looking forward to meeting with Trump. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
The battle to beat yet another federal budget expiration deadline continues at the Capitol today. Correspondent Rich Johnson reports that major differences between the House and Senate budget plans remain, including the one that President Trump says he favors, as well as differences among House Republicans.
The Senate will resume debate on the Republican plan to approve two budget bills, the first to fund border security, defense, and energy, and the second to impose spending limits, budget cuts, and some big tax cuts. GOP leader John Thune says they're going ahead despite President Trump coming out in favor of the House plan for a single budget bill.
Well, I think he's made it clear for a long time that he would prefer one big, beautiful bill, and we're fine with that, too. If the House can produce one big, beautiful bill, we're prepared to work with them to get that across the finish line. But we believe that the president also likes optionality.
While the House is out till Monday, its one big, beautiful bill is no sure thing. As many as a dozen House Republicans have expressed concerns, including worries that the budget cuts don't go deep enough.
This proposal is to cut $1.5 trillion stretched out over a 10-year period. It's about $150 billion a year. That will not even cover the increase in the interest payments that we're making.
That's Missouri Republican Eric Burleson in comments courtesy of News Nation's The Hill. Also, at least 8 members of the House who are Hispanic or represent heavily Hispanic districts have called on Speaker Mike Johnson not to cut Medicaid, food assistance, and other aid programs. And speaking of Medicaid, Medicare, and Social Security, it was just Tuesday that President Trump told Fox News
Social Security won't be touched. Other than if there's fraud or something, we're going to find it's going to be strengthened, but won't be touched. Medicare, Medicaid.
By this morning, he endorsed the House budget resolution, which paves the way for massive cuts to Medicaid.
That's Wisconsin Senator Democrat Tammy Baldwin yesterday speaking to reporters on Trump's Truth Social post, which endorses the big, beautiful bill in the House. And the president tossed another log on the fire last night. He said he's considering a plan to take 20% of the savings uncovered by the Department of Government Efficiency and give it back to taxpayers. I'm Rich Johnson.
The New York City mayor has his day in court. How did that go? We'll check in when America in the Morning returns after this. Just one more day in the work week to go after this one, and some of us waking up to historic cold today. To paint the full weather picture, here's meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
As the disturbance pushes its way across the Intermountain West today, the track of that storm will lead to a shift in the wind direction over Southern California, producing the latest Santa Ana wind event for the region. This does not look like a high-end event overall, but wind gusts in the 30 to 50 mile per hour range are still expected into many of the traditional locations just outside of downtown Los Angeles and across the rest of Southern California into the day on Friday. While this means an extended period of wind, the resulting fire risk is expected to be fairly low due to the rain that has recently fallen over Southern California, helping to keep the ground moist. To that end, downtown LA has had nearly 5 inches of rain already this month, already well over the historical average rainfall of just over 3.5 inches for the entire month. Today's other main story not related to precipitation will be the cold over the center of the nation, and it remains generally in place thanks to high pressure parked over the central plains, delivering frigid Arctic air into more and more of the east and even the south. After starting off Wednesday with a new record low of just 1 degree, leading to a high of just 8, cities like Wichita, Kansas face only slight moderation in temperatures today, on the way up to a high in the teens. Highs do remain 15 to 30 degrees below historical averages for most of the eastern two-thirds of the nation. Otherwise, 2 distinct areas of snow are expected today. In the west, the same disturbance causing the strong wind over Southern California will bring a general 1 to 3 inches of snow to places from central Utah into western Kansas. In the east, a general coating to 2 inches of snow follows a storm from Ohio and far eastern Kentucky to the southern New England and mid-Atlantic coast. In Buffalo, New York, it's a bitterly cold day in store with a coating to perhaps an inch of snow and a high of only 19. For Phoenix, look for sun and a high of 80. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The issue of birthright citizenship may be on a collision course with the nation's highest court. On Wednesday night, a federal appeals court in San Francisco issued a ruling declining an emergency request from the DOJ to intervene and ruled in favor of a lower court, which said the executive order issued by President Trump violates the Constitution. Now, legal experts have said that Trump's order conflicted with the 14th Amendment, which extends American citizenship to anyone born on U.S. soil by denying citizenship to future children born in the U.S. if their mothers were here illegally and their fathers weren't citizens or permanent residents. In denying the request, the 3-judge panel, which includes Trump-appointed Judge Danielle Forrest, found the Justice Department had not made a, quote, strong showing that they're likely to succeed on the merits of this appeal. New York Mayor Eric Adams maintained his innocence before a federal judge amid accusations that he accepted illegal campaign contributions and free travel during his first mayoral campaign, accusations that he denies. In fact, the hearing surrounded a recent motion by the Department of Justice to dismiss the corruption charges against the mayor. Adams was greeted by a frustrated crowd of New Yorkers outside the courthouse. U.S. District Judge Dale Ho did not issue a ruling in yesterday's hearing. He did say that he had questions about the prosecutor's request to drop the charges, though, without prejudice. That means the case could be brought again. And Mayor Adams did tell the judge this week that he's not worried about that happening. He insisted that he didn't do anything wrong and said he'd be okay if the case had to be brought again. All of this comes as Eric Adams is up for re-election this year and is facing a challenge from 7 other Democrat candidates so far, with 2 other Democrats, including former Governor Andrew Cuomo, considering a challenge. One independent candidate, along with Guardian Angels founder and radio personality Curtis Slua, who is a Republican, have announced their candidacy to become the leader of the nation's biggest city. Quick break, and on the other side, Thursday business when America in the Morning returns. Thursday Business brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments takes a disciplined approach with investing, helping clients navigate volatile markets. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with Thursday Business.
Wall Street opens again this morning with the S&P 500 index at a new record high. After some modest gains for the markets, stocks spent much of yesterday in the red.
The markets are effectively paralyzed at the moment by policy uncertainty. And so news in one direction or the other, I think we should expect that volatility.
MetLife's Lauren Goodwin on CNBC. Fed meeting minutes from the last meeting showed Fed officials are worried about the Trump tariffs and their impact on pushing inflation higher. No interest rate cuts are coming anytime soon. Inflation's gone up for 4 straight months. Apple unveiled its new, cheaper, low-end iPhone 16e. It says it's powerful enough to run AI. It'll be on sale later this month for $599. It doesn't have a fancy camera. The home builders facing headwinds when it comes to supplying the U.S. with new construction homes, as the country needs an estimated 8 million of them, both single-family and apartments. Tariffs on lumber and appliances can hurt, as well as the crackdown on immigration.
Labor is tight, right? We're looking at an industry that is probably 300,000 to 400,000 folks short of where it needs to be. On top of that, about 30% are immigrants. The percentage of illegal immigrants is not entirely clear, but it's something that we need to keep an eye on as well. So labor, land have really been the biggest pinch points of the builders being able to satisfy that lack of supply.
UBS's John Lovallo on CNBC. And in January, the home builders started construction on fewer homes.
Single family starts, we did see a steep drop of 8.4% month to month. Sentiment dropped dramatically to a 5-month low, and that was mostly on concerns over tariffs. The NAHB survey showed that future sales expectations, it dropped the most, down 13 points. So that's why you're seeing the drop in starts and the drop in building permits, which are, of course, an indicator of future construction. Just builders pulling back because they're concerned about affordability, they're concerned about potential tariffs, and it's labor, because such a large part of the labor market in home construction is from immigrants.
CNBC's Diana Olick. The San Francisco 49ers are exploring the sale of a 10% minority stake in the team. A number of pro sports team owners have taken some cash off the table by selling stakes in their teams. Burrito season just around the corner for Chipotle. It's using an AI chatbot called Avocado to help hire 20,000 workers this spring. The AI will collect basic information from candidates and schedule interviews, but when you ask it what the salary or hourly pay will be, it will not tell you. On today's watch list, a big one, we get earnings from Walmart.
The new HHS secretary says childhood vaccines are going to be re-examined. We'll tell you why. An American military drone seen flying over Mexico. We'll have answers to questions about that when America in the Morning returns after this. The new health secretary says childhood vaccines are going to be re-examined. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports that this comes as Robert F. Kennedy Jr. announces new HHS guidelines recognizing only 2 sexes.
Newly installed Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has told agency employees that a commission formed by President Trump will investigate the childhood vaccine schedule as part of an effort focused on examining the rise in chronic diseases. In remarks at a welcome ceremony at the agency's headquarters, Kennedy said nothing's going to be off limits, adding that pesticides, food additives, microplastics, antidepressants, and electromagnetic waves emitted by cell phones and microwaves all would be studied. The commission is to develop a strategy around children's health within the next 6 months. Kennedy says it will investigate issues he says were formerly taboo or insufficiently scrutinized. The event followed a weekend of mass firings of thousands of HHS employees, with more expected. Ben Thomas, Washington.
American military drones have been seen flying over parts of Mexico, but as correspondent Haya Panjwani reports, the Mexican government agreed to the move with the Trump administration.
The drones come amid pressure from the administration of U.S. President Donald Trump for Mexico to do more to stop the production of synthetic opioid fentanyl that is smuggled north to the United States. She says, every time there is a U.S. surveillance flight, it is at the Mexican government's request for collaboration and information to address security issues under collaboration protocols. Earlier this month, Trump threatened, then postponed, 25% tariffs on Mexican imports that he said were meant to push Mexico to take more action against its drug cartels. I'm Haya Panjwani.
America in the Morning for Thursday, February 20th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout. Here's what's coming up this half hour. The Trump administration dealing with Social Security questions, discussions of a possible Doge dividend, and an IVF nightmare for a Georgia couple.
The Trump administration says congestion pricing is over. New York Governor Kathy Hochul says, "I'll see you in court." I'm Sue Aller.
The State Department to designate some cartel groups as foreign terrorists, the latest on the Pope's health, and a Florida shooting now under investigation.
Apple announces the new iPhone 16e. I'm tech correspondent Chuck Palm.
Where were some of the high-profile cast members who were not at the 50th anniversary special of Saturday Night Live? I'm Kevin Carr.
We'll be right back. Another cold day expected for a lot of us in the U.S. Not everywhere will be as frigid. Here's LaTroy Thornton, our meteorologist, with your forecast.
Two storms will produce the vast majority of the precipitation in the continental United States today. Starting in the east, the tail end of the same disturbance that delivered several inches of snow to parts of Virginia and North Carolina for much of Wednesday is expected to graze southern New England, bringing up to a few inches of snow to Cape Cod and the islands from the afternoon into tonight. A piece of energy lagging behind that storm will continue to spark some snow through the day today, especially to the west of the Appalachian Mountains from Ohio into West Virginia, western Pennsylvania, and western New York, where a general coating to perhaps 2 inches of snow is most likely. Snow then shifts toward the coast for the afternoon hours, reaching central and southeastern New York, New Jersey, and parts of the Delmarva with steady snow and some flurries, or at least some snow showers at times. Farther to the west, the Rockies will be the focus for some snow as a stationary front hangs over the area. A general 1 to 3 inches of snow is expected into tonight from central and northeastern Utah into much of northern and western Colorado, including around Denver. Some of the higher elevations of this region can pick up 3 to 6 inches of snow, with all locations that face accumulating snow also in line for some slick travel at times. By tonight, the snow then spills into eastern Colorado and even parts of western Kansas. Most of the rest of the nation will benefit from some cold high pressure centered over the Central Plains today. This feature will help support temperatures 15 to 30 degrees below historical averages from eastern Montana into western New England and southward just about to the Gulf Coast. Elsewhere, a Santa Ana event begins over Southern California with gusts up to 50 miles per hour, but a reduced fire risk thanks to recent rain in the area. That's the weather across America. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist LaTroy Thornton.
Remember to follow us everywhere you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. The cost cutting continues at a rapid pace in Washington as the Department of Government Efficiency is looking at all federal agencies, including military defense, to clean up budgets and reduce the federal workforce. This comes as President Trump signed a new executive order which would give the president broader powers to shape the oversight of the nation's financial systems. One area that the Trump administration is facing pushback is with Social Security. And as Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, allegations of false claims about tens of millions of dead people getting Social Security checks.
The Trump administration is falsely claiming tens of millions of dead people over 100 years old are getting Social Security checks.
But listen to this, 3.6 million people are on Social Security rolls from the age of 110 years old to 119. Do you think there are really that many? Those people are seriously old. But it gets worse. 3.47 million people are on Social Security from the age of 120 years old to 129 years old.
The claims come from the president and Elon Musk.
Millions and millions of people over 100 years old. Everybody knows that's not so.
We've got people in there that are 150 years old.
And there's one person that's 360 years old.
While it's true some dead people have received improper payments, Social Security's new acting chief says those in the records the White House is citing are not necessarily receiving benefits. Rather, they're people in the system with a Social Security number, but no date of death associated with the record. Starting nearly 10 years ago, the agency automatically stops payments to people older than 115.
If you take all of those numbers off, because they're obviously fraudulent or incompetent, but if you take all of those millions of people off Social Security, all of a sudden we have a very powerful Social Security with people that are 80 and 70 and 90, but not 200 years old.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
There's been a lot of talk about the work of President Trump's Department of Government Efficiency to cut spending in Washington. Well, what will happen with the money that America potentially saves? The president has a plan for that.
We give 20% of the Doge savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt, because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt and pay down debt.
The president announcing his administration is considering dividend checks for Americans.
By doing this, Americans will tell us where there's waste. They'll be reporting it themselves. They participate in the process of saving money.
The idea of stimulus payments from Doge savings was initially floated by Azoria Investment CEO James Fishback, who pushed on X for Doge head and billionaire Elon Musk to make it happen. He suggested checks as high as $8,000. Musk, a strong advocate for cutting the deficit, and he explained why this week to Fox's Hannity.
If you cut back on the deficit, you actually have an amazing situation for people, because you get rid of inflation and you drop the interest rates.
Critics of the stimulus checks are concerned they would lead to chaos and inequities at the federal level. There are reports that the Pentagon is preparing for major spending cuts. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is ordering leadership to draw up plans for unprecedented decreases, believed to be as much as 8% annually for 5 years. In a statement, the acting Deputy Defense Secretary said the cuts would be needed to cover the Trump administration defense priorities, which include what the president called an Iron Dome for America missile defense and border security system, similar to what Israel has. Exemptions for budget cuts would include operations at the U.S. southern border, nuclear weapons, drone systems, and other munitions. A shocking story out of Georgia where a woman gave birth to a healthy baby boy through in vitro fertilization, and now 5 months later, she was ordered by a court to give the baby up. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports on an IVF clinic's embryo mix-up, a lawsuit, and a family's pain and anguish.
A woman is suing the Georgia fertility clinic that helped get her pregnant using in vitro fertilization 2 years ago. She's saying that she gave birth to another patient's child after doctors transferred the wrong embryo to her.
My birth story is nothing like what anyone could ever anticipate. It is riddled with shock, confusion, fear. The birth of my child was supposed to be the happiest moment of my life, and honestly, it was. But it was also the scariest moment of my life.
Christina Murray says she still wants to raise the baby boy who she gave birth to in December 2023, but she had to give up the child after his biological parents demanded custody last year.
The actions of the fertility clinic have come very close to destroying me, have left irreparable damage to my soul, and ultimately left me questioning whether I should be a mom or not.
Murray filed a suit in Savannah, Georgia against Coastal Fertility Specialists, saying its IV mix-up left her physically and emotionally broken.
All of the emotional and physical pain and sacrifice associated with pregnancy and preparing your entire life to welcome a child are worth it when the baby is placed in your arms, where they should stay forever.
Audio courtesy of Pfeiffer, Wolf, Carr, Kane, Conway, and Wise. I'm Haya Panjwani.
Another campaign promise followed through on by the Trump administration. We'll tell you what it was when America in the Morning returns. The Trump administration followed through on a campaign promise to end New York City's controversial congestion pricing toll system. Sue Aller reports from New York on the reaction and what happens next.
Congestion pricing is over. Maybe. Wednesday, the Trump administration terminated its approval of New York City's congestion pricing program. The U.S. Department of Transportation cited concerns that the program was primarily aimed at raising revenue for the Metropolitan Transit Authority, MTA, rather than reducing congestion. The decision has sparked a lot of debate. Governor Kathy Hochul and the MTA are planning to challenge the decision in court.
I don't care if you love congestion pricing or hate it. This is an attack on our sovereign identity, our independence from Washington.
While some drivers are happy about the end of the $9 peak toll to drive below 60th Street in Manhattan, other drivers have noticed a reduction in traffic. These New Yorkers spoke to ABC7 Eyewitness News.
The congestion price is good. It's good for everybody.
It's easy to cross the city and go uptown and downtown.
I feel like it's like nickel and diming us. Like every little piece that we have, like this city is built on like the small people, and man, we're running out of money.
The program started on January 5th, and for now, the city's license plate readers will stay in place. In New York, I'm Sue Aller.
There are reports that the U.S. State Department is moving to designate Tren de Aragua, the Sinaloa cartel, and 6 other Latin American drug cartels and gangs as foreign terrorist organizations. The notice, which was issued by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and set to be officially published today, suggests these groups have threatened the country's defense, international relations, or economic interests. The cartels in question have been linked to the drug trade that also brings fentanyl over the border into America. The designation allows the U.S. to impose financial sanctions on these groups and people connected to them, but it's unclear how far any sanctions would go or who they target. Pope Francis continues to be treated for double pneumonia at a hospital in Rome, but seems to be improving. Correspondent Lawrence Brooks reports.
Italian Premier Giorgia Meloni has visited Pope Francis in hospital and said he's alert, responsive and full of good humour despite his pneumonia. In a statement issued by her office, Meloni said, "We joked around as always. He has not lost his proverbial sense of humour." Her visit marked the first confirmed outside visitor known to have called on the Pope beyond his secretaries and medical team since his hospitalisation Friday. Francis has spent his 5th night in a Rome hospital after a week-long bout of bronchitis worsened. Medical personnel have since determined that he's suffering from a polymicrobial respiratory tract infection. That means a mix of viruses, bacteria, and possibly other organisms have colonized in his organs responsible for breathing. I'm Lawrence Brooks.
A Florida plumber is facing charges for allegedly firing 17 shots from his car at two people in another vehicle he believed were of Palestinian origin. The details from correspondent Jennifer King.
A 27-year-old Florida man, Mordecai Braffman, has been charged with 2 counts of second-degree attempted murder in a bizarre drive-by shooting. Police say Braffman told them he was driving in his truck in Miami Beach when he saw 2 men he thought were Palestinians, grabbed his gun, and opened fire in an unprovoked attack. The wounded victims are Israelis, a father and son vacationing in South Florida. One suffered a shot to the shoulder and the other a graze wound. Braffman is being held in a county jail in Miami. His attorney, Dustin Tischler, has said his client was experiencing a severe mental health crisis and is seeking treatment while cooperating with law enforcement. I'm Jennifer King.
Apple has announced the release of their newest iPhone, the 16e, which is available for pre-order tomorrow. And a big surprise will be the price. Here's Chuck Palm with today's tech news.
After months of rumors, Apple has finally announced the new iPhone 16e. Pre-orders will be taken online starting this Friday, with the initial price set at $599 and 128 gigabytes of storage. The new, cheaper iPhone will lose the physical home button, but gains a bigger edge-to-edge 6.1-inch OLED display. Another surprise? 5G modem is included and said to be the most power efficient on the market. A USB-C port, a customizable action button, and a fast A18 chip round off all the features. However, there is one sacrifice: no wireless MagSafe charging. There's still a front-face selfie camera for Face ID, but only a 48-megapixel rear camera for the new budget version of the Apple iPhone. This phone ships ready to accept Apple Intelligence as soon as it becomes available for download. Bitcoin trending up at 96,500 and Ethereum at 2,700. Find me on X at Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman has sports.
College basketball Wednesday, number 1 Auburn held off Arkansas 67-60 despite making just 4 of 24 shots from long range. The Tigers did bank 16 second chance points off 13 offensive rebounds. Number 15 Missouri upset 4th-ranked Alabama 110-98. Mark Mitchell with 31 for the other Tigers. Mark Sears had a season-high 35 for the Tide, which has now lost back-to-back games after briefly holding the number 1 spot in the coaches poll. Number 10 St. John's down DePaul 82-58, the Johnnies' 12th win in the last 13 games. The NBA All-Star break ended a little early for 2 teams last night. The Hornets edged the Lakers 100-97 in a game rescheduled from last month. Charlotte battled back from an 11-point halftime deficit. Miles Bridges had 29 points, LaMelo Ball 27. 9 games on the NBA schedule tonight. Fire Wagon Hockey is expected tonight in Boston, the Four Nations Face-Off Championship final between the U.S. and Canada, 2 teams that just plain don't like each other. U.S. forward Vincent Trocheck is eager to get at it.
Just a lot of excitement in here. Everybody's ready to go. A couple days in between games, so the anxiousness is starting to build.
The NHL regular season resumes on Saturday, and the trade deadline comes up on March 7th. And did you enjoy last year's college football playoff? Well, don't get used to it. The commissioners of the Big Ten and Southeastern Conferences said yesterday they agree that the way the 12 teams are seeded should change. Any adjustments for this season would have to be unanimously approved by all 10 FBS commissioners and Notre Dame's athletic director, and there are certain to be changes the following year when ESPN's new contract takes effect. That's Thursday Sports.
An offer from Delta Airlines following the crash landing in Toronto. We'll tell you what it is when America in the Morning returns. Delta Airlines is offering passengers who were on a flight that crashed after landing at Toronto's airport $30,000. Delta Flight 4819, which was arriving at Toronto Pearson International Airport from Minneapolis, flipped upside down and burst into flames as it landed. All 76 passengers and the 4 crew members escaped. The cause of the crash remains unclear right now. Delta Airlines says they're telling customers that the offer has no strings attached and does not prevent anyone on the plane from filing lawsuits, which are expected. There's more bad news for electric vehicle producers as hydrogen and EV truck and car maker Nikola has filed for bankruptcy protection. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Nikola was a rising star on Wall Street, a hot startup. In 2020, it was valued at around $30 billion. But founder Trevor Milton was convicted in 2022 for misleading investors about Nikola's technology. The bankruptcy filing comes months after the company said it would run out of money early this year. Nikola plans to continue limited service and support operations for vehicles on the road, including fueling operations through the end of next month, subject to court approval. Prosecutors say Trevor Milton falsely claimed to have built the company's revolutionary truck that was actually a General Motors product with Nikola's logo stamped onto it. I'm Ed Donahue.
The talk about this week's SNL 50 included a handful of stars who were missing from the 3-hour live show. Kevin Carr has the story.
Some fans of Saturday Night Live were concerned about their favorite former cast members not appearing in the 50th anniversary special.
How long have I been on anesthesia?
One absentee cast member that caused a huge stir online was Bill Hader, famous for his over-the-top characters like Stefan.
Yay, Stefan! Stefan, everyone!
Hader has talked about his struggle with anxiety during his 8 years on the show, but his representative said it was a, quote, long-standing schedule conflict that kept him away. He did appear in a Volkswagen commercial with Kristen Wiig as the Californians.
Of Raleigh Mustiel.
You saw me this morning in Marina Del Rey.
But not in Malibu Beach.
Also notably absent was Dana Carvey.
Well, isn't that special?
He had reprised his role as the church lady this past September and in recent months has played former President Joe Biden.
Thank you for the press for joining us to document this very important presidential transition meeting. I'm being serious right now.
According to his representative, he had a bad case of the flu and was unable to fly. Original not ready for primetime player Dan Aykroyd was not there due to, quote, prior commitments.
Jane, you ignorant slut.
However, Aykroyd did post a message of support on X during the special, calling it, quote, as historical as the next moon landing.
And now, from the news capital of the world, it's Weekend Update with Colin Quinn.
Others missing included Weekend Update hosts Colin Quinn, who was performing a comedy show in North Carolina, and Dennis Miller.
Live from New York, it's Saturday night.
Miller has not released a reason. I'm Kevin Carr. America in the Morning for Thursday, February 20th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm Clayton Neville in for John Trout, and this is Westwood One.